Professor Vexathera had constructed her life upon the bedrock of certainty. In the grand library of the cosmos, where chaos is usually the only constant, she treated the universe's rules like a well-organized filing cabinet. 3 decades of xenobiological research and 200 published papers had convinced her that life only bloomed where it was polite to do so. Death worlds remained reassuringly dead. It is a peculiar vanity of the enlightened to believe they have cataloged every shadow in the dark, and Vexathara was about to have her lights turned out. "Observe Sol 3, she announced, her forearms weaving through the holographic interface like a conductor silencing an orchestra. The projection rotated above the lecture pit, a marble of swirling white clouds masking what she knew to be a nightmare. A textbook cascade failure biosphere. Note the 21% oxygen concentration, pure poison. At this level, cellular oxidation would turn tissue into ash within hours. The auditorium, packed with 200 students from 47 distinct species, shimmered with dutiful recording lights. To them, Sol 3 was a ghost story. Add to that a crushing gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared, Vexathara continued, her mandibles clicking with grim satisfaction. Temperatures that fluctuate wildly, and most critically, surface oceans of dihydrogen monoxide, a solvent so aggressive it dissolves organic compounds on contact. She paused, allowing the horror to settle. In summary, Sol 3 is a perfect storm of impossibility. No sentience could ever survive the cradle. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind of hushed reverence reserved for academic dogma. Then a small, clear voice fractured the room. "Excuse me, Professor." Vexathera's four eyes snapped toward the back row. A bipedal figure in a standard academy jumpsuit stood up. "I think there might be an error in your data," the student said, her tone casually apologetic, as if pointing out a typo on a lunch menu. "Impossible," Vexathera scoffed, gill slits tightening. "I am describing a death world. No cadet could survive Sol 3. "Well," the student replied, "I'm from Sol 3. Earth, we call it. And honestly, the air in here feels a little thin." The transition from the lecture hall to Medical Bay 7 was less of a walk and more of a descent into madness for Dr. Helix Andros. He prided himself on diagnostic precision, yet the creature sitting on his exam table, Cadet Chen, was defying physics by simply existing. "We need empirical data," Vexathera insisted, pacing in tight circles. "Cycle the atmospheric test." Andros ramped the chamber's oxygen to toxic levels. 15%, 18. At 21%, where most metabolisms would burn out, Chen's vitals didn't just stabilize, they spiked with efficiency. "Can you bump it up a little more?" Chen asked over the comms, stretching. "It's finally starting to feel like home." Desperate for logic, they shifted to pressure. The chamber groaned as atmospheres climbed. "I used to free dive in the Pacific," Chen mused, watching the gauge's red line. "The pressure down there is 4 times this. It's actually quite peaceful." "And the temperature?" Vexathera whispered, her certainty eroding. They dropped the room to near absolute zero. Chen wrapped her arms around herself. "A bit chilly. Reminds me of winter in Minnesota. We play hockey on frozen lakes in weather like this." Andros stared at his scanner, which was emitting a warble of defeat. "Radiation. Surely the radiation." The chamber flooded with electromagnetic waves that would sterilize a starship. Chen examined her fingernails. "Less than a standard dental X-ray back home. Our star is pretty loud, you know. We soak this stuff up daily." "And the acid?" Nurse Quantum Flutter squeaked, trembling. "Yellowstone," Chen shrugged. "We camp near acidic geothermal pools. Beautiful scenery, though you have to watch out for the grizzly bears." "Bears?" Andros asked weakly. 350-kilogram predators. They eat you if you're not careful, but they're cuddly compared to the saltwater crocodiles." While the medical staff faced an existential crisis, a different catastrophe was unfolding in the archives. Archivist Null 7, a being of perfect recall, was staring at a filing error that spanned centuries. Sol 3 was listed as uninhabited, yet the medical bay was currently housing a biological tank. "Override protocols," Null 7 ordered Flux, her glowing assistant. "Open a channel to Sol 3. The response wasn't static. It was a cheerful, drawling voice from Houston Ground Control. About time you guys called. We've been broadcasting I Love Lucy reruns and math proofs for 100 years. We thought you were just ignoring us. Null 7's processor stuttered. You, you knew? We figured the galaxy was crowded, Houston replied. So we prepared. We've got warp drives in testing, orbital defense platforms, and nuclear deterrence. We realized early on that if we wanted to visit the neighbors, we'd better pack some heat. The realization hit Null 7 like a collapsing star. The galaxy hadn't been ignoring a graveyard. They had been ghosting a fortress filled with heavily armed, hyper-evolved survivors. The Emergency Council convened with the dignity of a burning circus. High Counselor Zephyr slammed her resonance staff against the rising tide of panic. "They are a disease!" shrieked the Silicon Collective representative. "They breathe poison! They drink solvent!" Cadet Chen sat in the center of the chaos, the eye of the hurricane. "It's just adaptation," she explained gently. "Evolution creates solutions. We survive because we have to." "And your technology," Admiral Vortex rumbled, the military tactician's mind racing. "You went from atmospheric flight to FTL theory in about 150 years," Chen supplied. "Competition drives innovation." The silence that followed was profound. In the history of the galaxy, civilizations took 50,000 years to make that leap. Humans had done it in the blink of an eye. We often mistake resilience for madness, until we realize that the monster under the bed is just someone accustomed to sleeping on the floor. "Motion to reclassify Soul 3, Zephyr croaked, looking at the small, terrifying human. "From uninhabitable to diplomatic priority 1. As the council dissolved into frantic protocols, trying to figure out how to make nice with the galaxy's deadliest species, Cadet Chen gathered her datapad. She paused at the heavy doors, looking back at the alien leaders scrambling in her wake. "Funny," she whispered to herself, a smile touching her lips. "And they thought no cadet could survive the lecture.